Good morning, Tampa Bay. Happy Friday. Friday edition, October the 7th. We're already a week into October. That's, to me, is absolutely insane. It's kind of befuddling, if you will. Welcome. Thank you, everybody who's tuned in. First thing here in the morning. Of course, you know I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you. We've got a decent little mix of things to talk about today, and I think that to me that's what's exciting. Every now and then, you do kind of get a little, I don't want to say a little tired, because I love talking football. I love talking about the Bucks, but man, we've got the Bolts were in action last night. The Rays first playoff game of the season starts in 4 hours and 6 minutes from this particular moment. The Magic got a close dub last night in the preseason. There's just so many positive, good and fun things to talk about. Super excited. I cannot wait to get into it. Of course, you know, we are doing at the Channelside Sports Network. Hit up our shop. Go to shop.channelsidesports.com. Any t-shirt that you purchase will be donated. 100% of the proceeds will be going to the American Red Cross. That's our way of giving back. That's what we can do right now at Channelside Sports. And, the way I look at it is, if, anything is better than nothing. And then continuing the reminder, from 12 to 4 p.m. today, head down over to Ford Thunder Alley, support the Hurricane Ian supply drive if you can. Non-perishable items include, obviously, food items, water, baby formula, bottles, baby diapers, wipes, hygiene items, garbage bags, and feminine hygiene products. Help those in need. Those were impacted by Hurricane Ian, because obviously, as we all know, absolutely terrible situation down for our friends in Southwest Florida, my home. I guess we'll kick it off. We'll start. We'll go a little Bucks heavy to kick it off. Tom Brady's going to play. He will be out there. He talked about it yesterday at the press conference. Rotator cuff injury. Ian Rappaport reported it on Tuesday. Not a minor injury, but it is something that is there. We all saw the hit that he took. Didn't pick up the blitz properly, unfortunately. Took a hard hit, landed poorly on the shoulder, injured the rotator cuff. And a lot of times the rotator cuff injuries are something that will happen with usage, right? This is an injury that continue to happen, that can get worse and progress into something major. It's not major right now, but there is a possibility that it can be major. So it's something you have to keep an eye on, because if Tom Brady happens to go down, you got to look at the schedule and say, okay, well, when is Tom Brady going to go down? If Tom Brady goes down, when is the opportune time to say, hey, take a week off and rest? Because they don't have a bye week for a little while. I don't see the NFL as a business, unless a drastic injury happens. I don't see the NFL as a business telling Tom Brady to take off the Munich game against the Seattle Seahawks. I don't see that happening. I think that we're probably going to see a Tom Brady that doesn't miss a single game. Excuse me. I don't care about what's happening in his marriage. That's not my concern. I get it. If you're a celebrity, people are going to talk about it. But the amount of people that are just putting out like troll memes, anytime that we've put out a report about Tom Brady, just in this last week, since we've been hearing about the marital issues, the possibility of a divorce lawyer, so on and so forth. Ever since we've heard any of that stuff, it's really been troll comments. Oh, maybe if he paid more attention to his wife. Oh, he's got a shoulder injury. He should get his wife to rub Tiger Balm. And look, I get it. We're all here for the likes. That's the name of the game in social media this time. But like, guys, calm the hell down, man. Like, this to me is absolutely ridiculous. We can't sit here and talk about a man's marriage like that. Like, if that was you, you're devastated. I don't care who you are. If that's you and you've got children, you've been married for 12 years, like, that's That's you. You're devastated. So don't be a dick. Like that's my big thing. Tom Brady talked about a lot of poor football being played last night, or not last. Well, there was a lot of poor football being played last night, but he talked about poor football just over the season in general, and not just for the Buccaneers, but in terms of everybody. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. There's been some really, really bad football that has been played, and it's not like it's not pretty. Of course, I enjoy it because I'm a football guy at the end of the day. I try to find any sort of solace I can while watching football. My wife knows that. I ask for one day a week. That's Sunday. Football Sunday is my day. That's what I want. But there has been a lot of football that has been bad. Namely last night. Last night is absolutely ridiculous. 12-9 in overtime. Like, how boring of a game is that? I'm on behalf of all of my friends, I tweeted this out this morning. On behalf of all of my friends that are Denver Broncos fans, because I have a handful of friends that are Broncos fans. On behalf of all of those guys, please just get rid of Nathaniel Hackett already. Please just get rid of him. I don't know of a coach that has been given his first coaching opportunity that has been relieved of his duties as early as Nathaniel Hackett would be, but it needs to happen. It needs to happen. Nathaniel Hackett is not a good head coach. He botched another call late in the game last night. Russell Wilson has that costly interception. Richard Sherman in the post game is absolutely priceless. Run the damn ball. You got 1 yard. Run the ball. Where have we seen that before with Richard Sherman? Oh, that's right. The grandest stage of them all. But yeah, there's just some bad football that's been played. There really has been, and rightfully so, I guess. Looking at, at some of the matchups that we've had early on in the season, but it's gonna happen, right? It's gonna happen. So if we run through the injury report from yesterday, Tom Brady was a full participant. Cameron Brate did not practice. Carlton Davis, Russell Gage, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, Rashad Perriman, and Donovan Smith all limited, and Raheem Nunez-Roches, Logan Ryan, Akeem Hicks, obviously, and Cameron Brate did not participate in practice yesterday, as we all know. Akeem Hicks is going to be out for a month. This is only the second week, but we knew what we were getting into with Julio Jones, right? Like, I hear this from fans a lot of times, like, why we shouldn't have signed Julio? He's going to be in, like, but we knew that he was oft injured, right? We knew Julio Jones was injured a lot these last 2 seasons, and now going on the 3rd season. We knew that. Julio Jones has played a lot of football. He's ran a lot of routes. He's taken a lot of hits. When you're the guy for a team, as long as Julio Jones has been, a lot of guys go down with injuries. Like Calvin Johnson towards the end of his career missed a lot of time. Mike Evans doesn't necessarily miss a lot of time, but he has those nagging ticky-tacky injuries, right? He has those nagging hamstrings. He'll get a knee every now and then. He'll get an ankle. And it's stuff that you have to be cognizant about. You have to be prepared for, especially when you've got a guy like Julio Jones. Now, Russell Gage still being injured, that to me is a little, I don't want to say annoying, right? Because you don't want to say an injury is annoying, but I mean, the guy hasn't been healthy all preseason. He was healthy at the beginning of training camp. He hasn't really been healthy. Yeah, he had that 10 reception game. Fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But he's just had nagging injuries and can't get healthy. Just sit him out. They ran him out last week against the Chiefs. Didn't really do anything, and that's fine. Chris Godwin's got the knee again. And I think Chris Godwin is going to have regular limited practices. I would assume for most of the regular season, just to make sure that knee stays healthy, that knee it's always a recovery process when you tear your ACL and MCL. It's always going to be a recovery process for that knee. especially in your first season back. So I think that you've got to look at limiting his hits and limiting the reps on that knee throughout the week, so he's good to go come game time. Tom Brady, of course, as we know, has always owned the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, 28-3. That's got to come up in his story at some point, whether it's today or tomorrow. It's got to. Tom Brady's only $6,000 on DraftKings this week. So if you're building a DK lineup, I would possibly consider looking at Tom Brady and shoulder injury, whatever. He's owned the Atlanta Falcons. Statistically, he's owned the Atlanta Falcons. DraftKings, obviously, that's where you want to look at. I would assume, knowing that Brady is a partial owner of the Atlanta Falcons, and knowing that he's only $6,000, I would assume he's in a lot of lineups. But I mean, that's something that you've got to. Obviously, one of my good buddies, who is a huge DFS guy, says the more uncomfortable the lineup, the better. That's usually how you win the big bucks when you're building a DraftKings lineup. And he's right, because how many times do you look at somebody that's in the top of your pool and you're like, oh, so they got the third string tight end on their roster, and he happened to catch a touchdown, and he got 7+ more points than I did. Got it. And that's a make or break right there, because he spent $3,000 less than you did on getting George Kittle, and there we go. That's your difference right there. But Tom Brady has owned the Atlanta Falcons. I don't look for anything different. Like I said yesterday, I've said all week long, we need to make this a get-right game for a lot of aspects of the Buccaneers roster. The defense obviously is going to be looking for a bounce back. Marcus Mariota has kind of struggled. He completed only 7 out of 19 passes last week, 8 if you count the interception. I know the trolls are doing that now, but the defense needs to look for a bounce back. The offense needs to figure out how to get something going, because they still have gotten nothing really going. I know Tom Brady had a good game against the Chiefs, but that was just because it was a high-scoring game, right? Like, I don't believe that the Buccaneers have as good of an offensive output if the Chiefs don't score 41 points. So I think that's kind of how the game plan worked. And then also, when you completely abandon the run and you finish with 3 total running yards, you're probably going to have your quarterback rack up a lot of passing yards. Just things to look at. I'll be at the game on Sunday. Looking forward to seeing people. If you see me walking around suited up, stop by, say hey. Channelside Sports will be in the house, and we'll just be having fun and chopping it up. And I'm looking forward to the Bucs getting it right. I said this yesterday. I want the Buccaneers to absolutely just demolish the Atlanta Falcons, because that's what they're supposed to do. I want them to demolish the Atlanta Falcons, who are at the beginning stages of a rebuild, who do not have Cordero Patterson. But it's going to be tough. You've got Luke the Lifter Grady Jackson's going to be lining up across from Luke. And we know Luke is literally dead last in terms of pass blocking. So it's going to be a tough day at the office for Luke yet again. I don't want to say Grady Jackson is the easiest matchup for him, but Grady Jackson thus far, I believe, has been the easiest matchup for him throughout these first 5 weeks. So we need to see in some sort of improvement. I'm not saying I need to see Luke come out and pancake guys. Like I don't need to see that. But I need to see Tom Brady with more than 2.20 seconds in the pocket. That's what I need to see. I need to see Tom Brady being able to look his third, fourth reads. I don't want to see Tom Brady going 1-2 crap balls out. I don't want to see that anymore. And this Atlanta Falcons game is the perfect time for a get right situation. So that's what we need to look for. That's what excites me the most. As we truck along here, I'm excited. I know, look, a lot of people are not baseball fans, but they're playoff baseball fans. And I totally get it. I'm kind of the same way. I'm not going to lie. it's just baseball is such a ridiculously long season, isn't it? It's just like it's overwhelmingly long, in my opinion. Is the regular season for the Major League Baseball? I I'm interested to see what happens in the series because the Guardians are favored in the entire series, not just the game today at 12:07. But the Guardians are favored in the series, um, not by much. They're minus 125. It's not. Vegas always knows, right? Vegas always knows something. Um, and that's why it's close because predicting a Rays technical upset over the Guardians, it's not necessarily an upset because they were so close they were so close in terms of the standings. Now the Rays are 2-4 against the Guardians in the regular season this year. They only played 2 series, 3 games each. But we have to remember, especially the first series, they were 1-2 against them both times. But in the first series specifically, they were very injured. They played the Guardians when a lot of these injuries were starting to rack up and they were starting to pile up, and it wasn't pretty. It didn't look good for the Rays at that point. This is when we were talking about, like what's happening. The Rays were in 4th place and everything looked like it was crumbling down because of the injuries. And we knew that injuries were going to affect the team. The injuries are going to affect any team, especially when you get them in such a large amount like the Rays did this season. That to me is where you say, okay, now this is how Kevin Cash becomes manager of the year, because he basically took Durham with a couple of regular Tampa Bay Rays and he brought them into the playoffs. That to me, that's where you look at Kevin Cash and go, damn, this is a good manager. This guy was able to figure it out, because a lot of times when we called up these coveted prospects of ours, and we talked about this ad nauseum during the trade deadline, ad nauseum, a lot of times when you call up your coveted prospect, especially for the Rays, everybody knows that we've got one of the top 2-3 farm systems in the major leagues. But when we call up these guys, they don't always pan out. Everybody that we called up had a part in making the playoffs. Every single guy that we called up to field this team, to round out and complete the roster, they have their fingerprints all over the Rays making the playoffs. And it's great. It's great to hear. I'm excited. And it's here, man. I don't know how many times have I said this. It's extremely exciting when you live in a city like Tampa, where your football team is good, your baseball team is good, your hockey team is good, USF, not so good, but the Gators, decent. The Gators look like they're building towards something. The Magic look like they're building towards something. So when you live in an area like we do, whether it's Pinellas, whether it's Hillsborough, whether it's over in Orange, it doesn't matter. When you have the benefit of having all of your pro and your college teams be pretty damn good, October's a fantastic month. October can't get any better than October. Shane McClanahan will be on the mound today. Obviously, you want to start the series off with your ace, right? I mean, can't really get any better. There's only a couple pitchers that maybe have arguments that they're better than Shane McClanahan. You got to remember, he's likely not going to win the AL Cy Young because of the injury, because he missed time. It was nice that when he missed time, so did Justin Verlander. But, realistically, it's not going to be Shane McClanahan's award to lose this season. But you start your ace on the mound. Obviously, Cleveland is going to do the same. But what I find interesting is that we know Tyler Glass now is the projected starter for tomorrow, but we don't have anybody listed for the third game. Now, that could be because there's questions. That could be something strategic. They don't have to have their projected starter in right now, but Cleveland has all 3 days already projected. They already have all 3 starters listed. So it could be also a level of confidence where the Rays are saying, nah, we're good. All we need it. Kevin Cash is sitting in the locker room looking at his guys and going, you know what? Danny from Channelside Sports has been right the whole time. All you need to do is get to the dance. Because once you're at the dance, anybody can win. And thank you very much, sir. Who knows? You know, it could be a confidence. It could be strategic. It also could just be not really knowing who you want to put on the mound and see the trends through today, right? That's also what it could be. Seeing who your trends are, seeing who the trending players are, seeing who, and I say trending in terms of the Guardians. Like, we all know baseball is a momentum sport. See who's going to start off strong. See if anybody starts off strong. See who's swinging. See what stuff coming off of the mound is working. So, I'm excited. Make sure when you're on your lunch break at work today, you throw on the Rays game. 12:07 is the first pitch. It is in Cleveland. And we're just looking forward to this game. I mean, it's all 3 games. Obviously, it's a best of 3, but all 3 games, if all 3 games need to be played, will be in Cleveland. That's how the new wild card works, and I'm okay with that. Part of the reason I'm okay with that is because we know that Rays fans typically aren't going to be showing up too much anyway. It's unfortunate, but it's true. We don't want to get into I don't want to get into the stadium talk again. I don't want to get into the location talk and all that stuff again. But I'm willing to bet that the Guardians, even at 12 o'clock, I'll bet the Guardians have at least 90% tickets sold. I bet when we turn on our TV in just under 4 hours and we look and see what that first inning looks like, I bet those stands are packed. Can we say the same about the stands at the Trop? I'm not really confident in that. I don't know if we can. So that's why I'm okay. Because you know what? You don't want to have the first series of baseball. And I know that it's because the Guardians are a higher seed than the Rays. The Rays are 6th. But you don't want your first series to start off with nobody in the stands, right? You don't want it to look like a regular season game. Baseball is a business at the end of the day. You want the stands packed. You want the fans screaming. You want the fans cheering. You want merchandise flowing and concessions and all of that good stuff. That's what you want. And it's a little bit chilly in Cleveland too. I think that's going to affect a lot of stuff as well. It's chilly up there. It's in the 50s right now. That's going to affect the game a little bit. I'm super excited to get this playoff series underway. We know, especially the way that the Rays played in August and September, we know the Rays can catch fire, and they can catch fire very quickly, and they can score punches or can score in bunches. They can. I almost said throw punches in bunches. Like I'm talking about boxing here. We're not going to get into boxing. But I think the Rays come out. I think the Rays finish. I feel like it's going to be like a 3-2 game where the Rays pick up the win. They might trade. They might win today and Cleveland wins tomorrow, or vice versa. But I do see this series going 3 games. I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I think it's going to go 3 games. I would love to see the Rays come out and get the momentum and get the W today in the afternoon. That's what I want to see. That's what I'm hoping to see. What we didn't see yesterday was our Tampa Bay Lightning pick up a win in Sunrise. I hate calling it Sunrise. It's realistically it's Fort Lauderdale. It's a suburb. That's like saying I live in Riverview, but I live in Tampa. I mean, it's basically the same. If I tell people I live in Tampa, they know where I'm talking about. If I say I live in Riverview, they don't know where I'm talking about, unless you are local here, right? But nonetheless, 3-2 was going to be the final score. Fourth preseason game. Obviously, their one against the Carolina Panthers was canceled due to Hurricane Ian. The Bolts won, and this is what's weird. So the Bolts won in every category outside of shots and outside of power play goals. They were outshot 41-28, but they led the way in hits 2013. They won the face-off battle 28-26, 16 block shots, more takeaways, less giveaways. And Vazzy stopped 38 of 41 shots. But when you're outshot 41-28, chances of you winning, I mean, that's a 13, what is that? That's 13 shot difference. Chances of you winning are going to be hard. It's just it's difficult to expect to pick up a win when your team is struggling like that. That's just that's if you're struggling to score goals, and that's why I say, is it alarming to anybody? Is it alarming how the Lightning have looked in the preseason? They're 0-4, and I know it's preseason. I know we can say preseason doesn't matter, and that's fine. Because in the grand scheme of things, the preseason doesn't matter in terms of regular season seeding and playoff seeding and so on and so forth. But they've only scored just 4 goals, and they've given up 17 total goals. That's something that you want to keep an eye on, because we like the depth of our team. We love the depth of the Lightning. But our depth versus other teams' depths have largely been outplayed. Now, like I said, we've seen a couple different shifts. We've seen line changes. We've seen some rotations and line changes in this preseason. So there's things that we're looking at and saying, okay, obviously we're trying to implement stuff. We haven't had Nikita Kucherov and Steven Stamkos and Victor Hedman. We haven't had a lot of these guys playing up until yesterday, right? So this was the first preseason game we've had for our name brand, for our core, if you will. This is the first time that we've had everybody on the ice, and you lose 3-2, and that's fine. You know, Terrence Doyle of 538.com gives the Bolts a 10% chance to win the cup. 10% might sound low to you, but number one is the Colorado Avalanche at 18%. 10% is good enough for second place. Adam Kimmelman of ESPN, or of NHL.com, I apologize, said they now have the one thing they lacked the past 2 seasons, the anger that comes with losing. Now you're taking a talented team and giving them more motivation. To me, that's a championship recipe. And I think that's the big key for the Lightning heading into the season, is looking at this team and looking at, okay, yeah, sure, they've lost, you know, with this core group of guys, they've lost. But we're talking about the last 3 seasons, right? That's what we're talking about. They had the back-to-back cup wins. Last year, they were going for the trifecta. Unfortunately, they fell short to the Colorado Avalanche. Whether you want to say it's, you know, that poorly non-call, poor, terrible non-call on the line change where Kadri scored the goal to win the game. Whether you want to say that, or you just want to say they were outplayed, they were outskated, because the Avalanche were fast. That was the one big takeaway from pretty much every series outside of the Panthers series, was every team was just a hell of a lot faster than us. The Maple Leafs were faster than us. The Rangers were faster than us. The Avalanche were faster than us. The Avalanche were throwing bodies around more than us. Like, that's the one thing that we can say. We can look and say, we needed to make improvements in the offseason, and they did make some improvements. Philippe Myers is going to be like, there's going to be some changes made to lines. There's going to be some changes. Obviously, Braden Point's back. You know, we lost him at the end of the Leafs series. He came back in the final, but just didn't look like Braden Point. He's fully healthy now. He's ready to rock. He's and roll. And the Lightning got to still be one of the favorites because they still have the core players that got to the Stanley Cup 3 straight seasons. We can talk all we want about age. We can talk all we want about youth and speed, but experience can outweigh a lot of that stuff fairly easily, if we're being totally honest. So you've got to look at this Lightning team and say every one of these sports books, all the analysts, our experts here at Channelside Sports, everybody's predicting likely another Stanley Cup final appearance at the very least from the Tampa Bay Lightning team. You've got the best goalie in hockey. You still have the best goalie in hockey, who was extremely pissed off at the end of the Stanley Cup final because he didn't play as well as we expected and as well as he expected. Like, that's you don't want an angry Vazzy in net, especially once the regular season starts. I do think that we see a healthy dosage of Brian Elliott this year. Vazzy played, I want to say Vazzy played in like 62 games last season during the regular season. I think we see a downtick. I think we see Brian Elliott in probably about 10 to 12 more games. And we're going to see a more rested Andrei Vasilevsky once the playoffs starts. Because, I mean, there's no way that the Lightning don't make the playoffs unless everybody goes down. That's the only way. Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic got it done last night, 102-99 over the San Antonio Spurs. And I know, preseason, whatever. But when you're a team that's rebuilding, preseason 100% matters. When you're a team that is rebuilding, the preseason 100% matters. Don't let anybody tell you that it does not, because it does. This is where your young core of players continues to develop chemistry. We saw what happened last night. Wendell Carter Jr., 20 and 10, double-double. I expect a lot of these games that the Magic are playing this season to wind up this close, to wind up within, anywhere between 3 and 8 points. Last year we know that didn't really fare well for the Magic. The Magic dropped a lot of games that were, I think they lost all but one game that were within 8 points last season. That's not good. That's not where you want to be. And my number could be correct, but could be incorrect. And I'm sure Twitter and Facebook will let me know. But we saw in the first preseason game, we saw Cole Anthony get it done, 17 on 6 of 10 shooting. We saw Wendell Carter Jr. last night get it done, 20 and 10. Paolo Banchero has been solid. Last night, a little ineffective shooting. I think he was like 3 for 10 from the field. Not ideal. But when other guys are stepping up and other guys are improving around you, you can afford to have an off night. Right? You can afford to have that because you've got a solid core of guys together. This is what you want from your team in a rebuilding effort, because the Magic are not contenders. No matter how much we want to believe it, no matter, Markelle Fultz said fourth seed's a stretch. Fourth seed would be overachieving this season. I'd be happy with a play-in appearance. That's where my head is at, because I'm trying to be realistic here. They're a solid team. They might be a little bit behind the Detroit Pistons in terms of where they are in the rebuild, not necessarily with talent, not with, not with personnel, not with coaching, with the coaching staff, but in terms of where the actual rebuild is, I think the Pistons kind of started a little bit before the Orlando Magic, and we'll see them square off in the second game of the season. We'll see Cade Cunningham and Sadiq Bey against Paolo Banchero and Wendell Carter Jr. and Cole Anthony and Franz Wagner. You got to remember, Franz Wagner he had a great rookie season, and he's had a great EuroLeague trip. He's looked good for Germany. He's largely led that team to everything positive that has happened to Germany. And knowing what we know about where he was last season and the improvements that we are seeing this season, sure, Luka Doncic kind of racked him up. Sure. But that's Luka. That's what Luka's a superstar in the NBA. If Franz Wagner is able to corral Luka, now we're looking at a completely different animal with Franz. But I'm excited with what I've seen. We've seen the leadership from Paolo Banchero in these 2 preseason games. We saw it during the 2 summer league games. We saw it during Jamal Crawford's crossover. Paolo Banchero has the intangibles. He has that it factor that you're looking for from a superstar player. That's what you're looking for. We saw him last night with the block shot, takes it down, was able to create some offense off of it as well. And these are positive momentum moves. So on the first game, ball movement. Second game, a lot of ball movement. Everything is looking good. They're making the extra pass, finding the open man. And the team is playing fundamentally sound basketball. That's where you want to be with a young group of guys, because not everybody plays fundamentally sound basketball. Ja Morant, fantastic player, one of my favorite players in the NBA, not a fundamentally sound basketball player. He relies a lot on his talent just being better than a lot of the other guys around him. So I'm interested to see what happens. Obviously, we know they have Dallas tonight, and then they have Memphis again. I'm interested to see how these next 2 games for me are I'm intrigued by both of them. I'm intrigued by Dallas tonight. Obviously, we know Luka's not going to be there. But what intrigues me the most about tonight's game is we know that there's not a lot of back-to-backs on the schedule this season. So I am interested to see how this team does with momentum. You picked up a close win last night, 102-99, over a team that's kind of rebuilding in their own right. How are you going to play tonight after getting that big victory? Preseason or not, it's still a victory and it's still a big win, because the Magic are not a top 5 team in the Eastern Conference. Eventually, I believe that they could get there if some things go right. They need another couple of pieces, and then I think we're looking at a team that could be labeled as a contender from the East. Look at what the Miami Heat are doing, right? The Miami Heat, outside of Jimmy Butler, the Miami Heat was ridiculed for drafting Bam Adebayo where they drafted him. The Magic have had some misses in the draft. The Heat haven't had any misses, and I think that's largely where they are. Then you add Jimmy Butler there, and now you're talking about an Eastern Conference powerhouse team. I think the Magic are trending in that right direction, but they're not quite there yet. Some things could happen this season, and things could click, and they could go on a cruise, and you could see the Magic possibly get 4th, but that's a huge stretch. I am still telling every single person that I'm talking to, smash the over button if you want to put a W in your win column. If you want a tally mark there, smash the over, because there's no way in hell this team wins less than 26.5 games this season. There's literally no way that happens. I don't see any possible way. You win 22 games last season. There's no way that the team is not 4 wins better than where they were. If in my heart of hearts, I don't believe that. I don't see any possible way that they're going to win less than 26 games. I don't. It's kind of crazy to me, but I don't see how that happens. October, man. October will get you every single year, especially in this area. October is going to get you. I'm telling you. Make sure you guys are tuning in. Channelside Bets. They've got some good stuff coming up, especially on Sunday. You got the news with Nikki. You've got all of the league news. You've got DFS builds. You've got starts and sits. The camaraderie between Evan, Chip, and Nikki is a great team. Happy that they are part of the Channelside Sports Network. Happy that they are the hosts of Channelside Bets. Make sure you tune into them 11:30 live, exclusively on our YouTube channel, where you're streaming this live right now as well. Make sure you're smashing the thumbs up button when you're liking, when you're watching these videos. Whether it's Channelside in the morning, whether it's Main Event, which is live every Tuesday at 8, or it is Channelside Bets at 11:30 on Sundays. Make sure you're hitting the thumbs up button. That helps propel the video to the home page of YouTube while it is streaming live, because it says, hey, we're interested in what you guys are talking about. We enjoy what you guys are talking about, and maybe everybody else should tune in as well. That's going to do it for us today on this Friday fired up edition of Channelside in the Morning. Make sure you just follow us on all the social media platforms. Search for the Channelside Sports Network. Follow me if you want to. My opinions are different from the Channelside Sports Network opinion. I have, we have to do it that way. So make sure, if you want to chop it up, if you want my direct opinion, follow me on Twitter. Just look for Real Danny B, and we will do it all over again on Monday. Everybody enjoy the weekend. Make sure you're tuning into the Rays, man. Support the Tampa Bay Rays. 12:07 is the first pitch. Rays and Guardians wild card series. First best of 3. First time that this kind of series has been implemented. As we know, it's been 2012 to 2019 has been just the one-off game. So this, to me, is a whole new animal. It's super fun. It's super interesting. So make sure you support the Rays. Tune into the Magic tonight. And then, of course, let's watch our Tampa Bay Buccaneers get right over the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday and absolutely demolish the Dirty Birds. That's what we're hoping for. I am Danny. You guys have a fantastic weekend. Don't forget, between 12 and 4, head down to Ford Thunder Alley if you can donate any hurricane supplies to those that were impacted by Hurricane Ian. Everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy all of the sports that are in front of us, because it is a lot.